All rise. Good evening, everyone. I'll call the City Council to order at 8 o'clock on Monday evening, April 27, 2026. The meeting is being recorded. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have 21 items on this evening's agenda, and I will ask the city clerk to please read agenda item number 1.
Minutes City Council meeting, April 6, 2026.
Councilor Vital.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to accept and place on file the minutes.
Motion's made and seconded to accept and place on file the minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none of those in favor, opposed, minutes are approved, and the vote is, now it's 9-0. Agenda item number 2.
Now is the time to continue public hearing on the petition of Mass Electric and Verizon to install one joint-owned pole on Cimarrano Drive beginning at a point approximately 340 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Forest Street and Cimarrano Drive. National Grid is proposing to install a new pole labeled P35-50 on Cimarrano Drive, order number 26-100-9702A. Additionally, we have a communication from City Engineer Tom DiPersio regarding recommended conditions.
Okay, this public hearing will be taken up in 4 stages. First, for the public speaking in favor. Second, questions from the public. Third, public speaking in opposition. And then finally, questions from the City Council. So I'll open the first part of the public hearing with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Come on up. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is John Rupier. Address, I'm coming from 245 South Main Street in Hopedale. I'm here for, as you said, the petition. The pole is going to be a mid-stem pole to minimize the sluggish of the wires because of the weather during the winter time. The wires become really sluggish. So since we are putting a new device on top of this pole, so we prefer to have support to avoid the slug. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Any other members of the public speak in favor? Any other members of the public speak in favor? Any members of the public speak in favor? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing and the entire public hearing. Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. As councilors remember, we continued this public hearing from last time. The city engineer did get the information he needed, and with that, move to approve with the conditions submitted by the city engineer.
Motion made and seconded to approve the petition subject to the conditions submitted by the city engineer. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The petition is approved and the vote is 9-0. John, thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice evening.
Agenda item number 3.
Now is time for public hearing on the petition from Light Path Fiber Infrastructure LLC to install approximately 1,315 feet of two 1.25 HDPE communications conduit from existing pole number 43 on 4th Street to pole number 36 with 3 3x3 feet hand holes placed along the running line in front of 455 4th Street, order number 26-100-9720. Additionally, we received a communication from the city engineer, Tom DiPersio, regarding recommended conditions.
Okay, this public hearing will be taken up in the same 4 stages. First, with the public speaking in favor. Second, questions from the public. Third, public speaking in opposition. And finally, questions from the city councilors. So I'll open the first part of the public hearing with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Herb Bertoni from Lightpath Fiber. We are at 100 Quantum Parkway in Wakefield, Mass. Due to the pole conditions, all the poles would have to be upgraded, so it was easier to go underground, place the conduit, some small conduits underground, pull a cable through that to continue the connection to 555 Forest Street. And then on top of that, we got another order for 11 Apex Drive, so now we have two. So that's where we're at.
Is that it?
That's it, thank you.
Thanks, Herb. Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any members of the public speaking in favor? Members of the public speaking in favor? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition? Public speaking in opposition? Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing and the entire public hearing. Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the condition with the comments and, move to approve the petition with the comments and conditions submitted by the city engineer.
Motion made and seconded to approve the petition subject to the conditions submitted by the city engineer. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The petition is approved with the conditions of the city engineer, and the vote is 9-0. Herb, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 4.
Now it's time for the public hearing on a proposed zoning amendment to Chapter 650 zoning to add a new section to create Forest Street Residential Overlay District and to amend the zoning district map to rezone certain parcels to the Forest Street Residential Overlay District, order number 26-100-9705.
Okay, this public hearing will be taken up in the same 4 stages. Public speaking in favor, questions from the public speaking in opposition, and finally, questions from the city councilors. I'll open the first part of the public hearing with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. For the record, Robert Buckley, Riemann Bronstein. I have with me this evening my partner, Christine Hung, and Elizabeth Bello from the proponent, Redgate. We're here this evening to propose a zoning amendment and overlay district for property that is located at on Forest Street, August of 2024. The applicant or the proponent sought a special permit site plan.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Buckley, I just know if you want to run the clicker or do you want us to run the clicker?
Oh, I thought it was,
So you're just gonna have to left, right.
okay.
You're welcome. Thanks.
I'm talking, and I apologize. I know some people have heard
You're
this. About 50 years ago, a defensive tackle from Yale knocked my front teeth out and told me that I would remember it someday. And now I remember I'm having my teeth replaced. So if I slur, I apologize. But words with F and S, I'm having a real difficult time with. As I indicated, that is the site, Forest Street and Williams. Williams is not located, labeled. There are 2 buildings there that were unresponsive. There are some tenants in one of the buildings, but there are 2 buildings that have languished in, as people are aware in the audience, I'm sure, that the market for office and other types of real estate is not very strong right now, and it's having a declining value also on municipal budgets. So about 2 years ago, the applicant proposed going to get a site plan to adopt 3 buildings and upgrade in phases the site. That has proven to be a difficult challenge in today's marketplace. So over the last year, we've discussed pursuing a rezoning to permit a mixed-use overlay based upon the market data that not only here but through the nationwide indicates that those properties that respond are the ones that have the flexibility to adapt to the mixed conditions in the marketplace. For those, there are a few councilors that probably remember about 15 years ago, 10 years ago, the old HP site, Marlboro Hills. I appeared before the council and proposed a similar type of an approach, and I think that my view of zoning has to be that it's predictable and flexible. Predictable so that the applicant or the proponent knows exactly what is demanded of them, and flexible to react to the changing marketplace. But also you want to make sure that the city controls the development. So we've proposed a zoning ordinance that would allow for predictability, flexibility to allow some mixed uses, including residential, and flexibility to react to marketplaces, because what we're seeing in the marketplace is that those locations that have the ability to have their employees live in and around the places where they work achieve a number of objectives: desirability, reduce traffic, and it distinguishes the property from others in the marketplace. So that's what we have before the council to consider. The uses are very tailored based upon the research that we've done. The underlying uses remain in place for the flexibility. The control comes through a special permit through the council. And we're not trying to skirt any regulations. We're just trying to respond to changing conditions, which, if you read the literature, I don't think we're ever going back to the traditional office, industrial type of office park that populated the eastern portion of Massachusetts for years. The benefit, our preliminary indications are that that would probably generate north of $1.2 million in net tax revenue for the municipality. If we are lucky enough to obtain the approval, we would then have to come back with a plan and have that approved through the regular process, and we would have the detailed data as to traffic, fiscal impacts, and all the usual conditions that one would want to consider in approving a project. As I indicated, that we take at least my practice is a collaborative practice. We've always tried to articulate what is the objective of the municipality and the developing entity, and try to find where there's some overlap and consistency, and work through the issues over the long term. With that, I'm going to ask my partner, Christine Hung, to, oh, I'm sorry, Liz. I'm going to have Liz tell you who Redgate is. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. President, City Councilors, thank you for having us tonight. My name is Liz Bejo. I'm with Redgate. We're located at 100 Federal Street in Boston. I've met with some of you previously, and some I haven't had yet the pleasure. So we want to just take a couple minutes just to talk a little bit about Redgate. Redgate, in simple terms, we are an investment development firm as well as an owner's project management firm. We are based in Boston. We're hyper-local, and we're a multifaceted firm. So we've worked a pretty broad variety of product types across commercial, industrial, residential. And given that the new use that we're looking to introduce on this property is residential, the images that you see here are some of our multifamily developments. We don't do cookie cutter projects. We work with a very thoughtful team to make sure that we create projects that are contextual and unique. So no two projects of ours are going to be alike. And historically, we've partnered for good things for a project. So I'm happy to be having these conversations with you. I'm keeping it short and sweet, but happy to answer any questions about us.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. For the record, Christine Hung, attorney at Reamer and Bronstein. I just want to talk a little bit about the proposed zoning. And as this is just a zoning, we don't have a specific project. We just wanted to give you a little vision of what the zoning would allow in terms of a development project. So as Bob mentioned, currently the site consists of 2 office buildings. One is completely vacant, has been vacant for quite some time. The other one is partially tenanted. We would keep that office building in place and then develop potentially 2 residential buildings, rental, approximately 200 units in each building with some underground parking and surface parking. Now with these type of mixed-use developments, to have the high-quality attractiveness, there has to be amenities, public amenities, open space, and so what we would also envision are pickleball courts, paddle courts, lots of open space, a dog park, a park for children, as well as walking trails, as well as a retail as part of the office building to really activate the whole office park so that it isn't just 9 to 5, that it is really a full 18-hour after hours that will activate this entire park. So these are just some depictions of what we kind of envision as a future of what this potential site could be. Traffic, as Bob Buckley mentioned, we have preliminary traffic data. Overall, the traffic will be less from what the site was originally approved for, and more importantly, they're going to be off-peak hours. So when there is a project, the development team will come back with a full traffic impact assessment as well as economic, a fiscal impact statement as well. The next renderings I'm just going to go through really quickly because there really is no project, but we just wanted to give us the council members a sense of what the environment could feel like with some multifamily residential in the park. So just quickly go through this. Just representative and very conceptual. Oops. So you'll see this last slide, there's just an open space area, public realm with, a gathering place essentially. That's it for our presentation. We wanted to be short and sweet. We're before the planning board next week, but we're happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thanks, Christine. Anything else, Attorney Buckley? Any other members of the public speak in favor? Any members of the public speak in favor? Any members of the public speak in favor? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the public? Questions from the public? Please come over, state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello. For the record, my name is Axel Knopf. I live at 502 William Street, so I'm I'll say a direct abutter to what is being proposed here. I will say that as a resident of William Street, I'm against this proposal. I believe that, the city has plenty of apartments all over the place. If we want to raise some buildings and put in single-family homes, I think that would be more ideal than more apartments. I don't know where or what the city is going to do with the extra $1 million that the team here presented is going to be in revenue, because I don't see where it's going in the city. The streets aren't any better, the schools aren't any better. So it's great that we get all this money, but where's it going? And in terms of just overall traffic, I know that on William Street, not too long ago, another building was built, and now there's 18-wheelers going down the street 60 miles an hour. So I don't think your traffic study is going to really decrease the traffic. It's actually going to increase the traffic, especially on that windy, narrow street that I live on. So again, as a resident, I'm opposing the view, and I will be here for the other meetings as well, so I can hear more of what the team here wants to present. I have no ill will to Redgate, because I don't know who you are, but I do, as a resident, have, a stake in the neighborhood.
So any questions, or you're good?
I'm good. That was my statement to say I'm disavowing of what you're planning.
Thank you. Any other questions, or any other questions from the public? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Pete Sharon, 95 Lakeshore Drive, Marlboro. I just had a couple questions. One was, what would be the maximum build-out with this overlay?
Well, there's no product that's been designed yet, but it would probably be about 400 residential units at various phases in an existing office building of 120 to 128,000 square feet. That's the existing office building.
So would that be a cap, like, of the 400 and the
That could be
square?
worked out. Yeah.
That would be a cap?
Yeah, that could be worked out at requirements, so that's what it translates into.
Okay, thank you.
Again, there's no product yet or project yet because we don't have the zoning. But that could be addressed.
Yeah, I've just seen so many projects come in and they creep up a lot more when they come further on. I was just curious if there was a cap or what you, with the green space and everything, what you could build in there. Because with an overlay, there's a lot of leeway. That's it.
Thanks, Peter. Any other questions from the public? Questions from the public? Questions from the public? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition. Damon, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Damon Michaels, 93 Chase Road. We've all seen a lot of changes here in Marlborough in regards to overlay districts. We've seen a lot of apartments come in over the past few years. We've seen a lot of money promised, but we have not seen any improvements happening in the city. If anything, our roads are worse. Our schools are still underfunded. So why do we need yet another developer to come in and tell us that they don't want to live with the property restrictions that they bought the property for? It's well and good to have more apartments, but we've put in a serious amount of apartments in Marlborough. And if the feeling seems to be here in the city that they're tired of it, that the residents are tired of these changes and tired of the big apartment buildings, and that the planning board and the city council need to start listening to what the people are saying. They are tired of the changing of districts from what they were bought under. They're tired of huge apartment buildings going in, basically unobstructed. Thank you.
Thanks, Damon. Any other members of the public speaking in opposition? Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's an interesting premise, and I think the zoning is something that we can talk through urban affairs. I'm not necessarily a big fan of more apartments. I think affordable housing, owner-occupied housing is more important at this point than apartments. So something of more condominiums, garden-style condominiums or something like that, versus apartments, I think is something that has greater demand in the market than apartments. We got plenty of apartments. We do not have much owner-occupied affordable housing. I think that's critical. This is all speculation, what it needs to look like. I get that. Putting an overall cap on housing, number of units, I think makes a lot of sense, as well as other types of issues that might need to be addressed as part of this. But thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any other members of the councilors with questions? Councilor Preciado.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for being here. I sympathize with your speech because I recently had some dental work done, and sometimes it's still hard to speak. I just had a few questions. Do you know what the previous tenants were of these buildings?
I'm sorry?
The previous tenants?
So the 26 Forest Street office building has about 6 tenants, the largest of which is Riley Power. They work on electronics, and there's some other NGO Dynamics is another tenant. All four. Main Street Bank. Main Street, yes. So those are some of the tenants that make up about 80% right now of the building that's leased. And then the building, the 62 Forest Street building, it's actually about 30% leased right now. It's got just 3 tenants, and 2 of those leases actually will run to its end in early 27. And the remaining lease would run through 2029.
Thank you. How long have you had problems with filling those spots?
So we acquired the property at the end of 23, and we have not received any tenant interest in 62 Forest Street.
Thank you. So you have plans to keep one of the current buildings as office space. Do you have any plans to update it in any way, or are you going to keep it as is?
I think it's going to be dependent on whether we're able to obtain the rezoning and be able to move forward with a residential project. Part of our goal would be to add some retail amenity to the ground floor of that existing office building. It would help activate, overall the outdoor space, spillover effect, but it's also going to help reinvigorate the existing office building and potentially make it more attractive to other tenants.
Thank you. Just backing up, I do agree with my counselor here on the fact that we do need a lot more affordable housing. We do have a lot of units going up online soon, and a lot of them are not affordable to the residents that live here. Do you have any plans to provide any substantial affordable housing, or what are you going to let the market dictate the prices that you guys set for these units?
Yeah.
The zoning provides that we would comply with the city's guidelines, and I believe it's 12% affordable.
I'm just always curious if developers are willing to do more than that. I know that there are some people here that say that 12 is 12 and that's it, but just always curious.
It's very interesting because, for instance, the city of Boston and other places that tried to increase it, it brought the market to a halt. No one was building it. And 12% of zero is zero. So you want to make sure you have product that can be built and occupied.
Understood. So there is a big traffic concern as well, because this traffic study is based on just this building alone and what it would bring in. We do have Lizotte, the Glenford coming online soon. We also have Forest Names, which just got approved. So it's 170 units plus 90 units plus the proposed 450 units that you would have here. So this traffic study doesn't really mean much to me. Would you guys take into consideration adding those units onto that?
Absolutely. If we were to come forward with a permit, we would have to address not only our traffic impacts, but any background traffic impacts and conditions would have to be imposed on any permit. But at this point, it's just speculative. But what we're saying is that anything that goes on here will go through the regulatory process. We'll have to provide a detailed traffic report, what intersections, what streets to be studied, and that's generally through the planning board. And mitigation would have to be appropriate to handle any impacts. The fiscal analysis, we would know who the user would be, what type of users are being attracted to it, what the other amenities are. So all those issues would be addressed during the permitting process. We're not trying to avoid that, but to spend the money now to do that type of deep analysis without having the zoning in place, it just doesn't make any economic sense. But
Understood. Yeah, this is kind of just throwing stuff at the wall kind of deal, right? Which is
well,
completely understood.
What I say to a lot of communities is that zoning is the key to a room. If you don't have the zoning, you can't go into the room. The zoning opens the door and lets you in. Now you have to design the room and furnish the room, and that's where the permitting comes in. And that's where the project is presented to the council as well as the planning board or other regulatory boards to vet the various impacts and to mitigate them and to come to a conclusion that serves the best interests of the city as well as the developer, because no one wins if the project isn't vibrant and exciting. And Marlboro, at least my experience with Marlboro, has been somewhat forward-thinking, and they took a great leap, and probably 10 years ago, time goes by. And as a result, Marlboro is a great location, attracts a lot.
With questions? Any other councilors with questions? Any other councilors with questions? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing and the entire public hearing. This is in Urban Affairs.
Thank you,
Buckley,
Mr.
Liz, Christine, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Okay, agenda item number 5.
Communication from the Ward 2 Councilor David Doucette regarding requests that the city investigate geothermal energy. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Thanks.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This communication that I did, I've spent quite a few months doing some research on. I've touched base with many of the councilors. I confess I didn't get to all of them at the time, but I thought it was important to get this submitted on Earth Day. And I appreciate all the input from the people within and outside the city. Specifically, I appreciate Audrey Shulman and Karen Kraut from Black Swan Lab who are here. They helped me with some feedback. Most importantly, it's not a geothermal utility, it's actual a thermal exchange utility, because geothermal is one of many technologies that could be applied to extract heating from, including extracting heat from sewer and using that to heat buildings. That's being actually proven and demonstrated in Vancouver, British Columbia. Other technologies we need to look into as part of the process. This is really just starting the ball rolling and really focusing on requirements gathering stage. And I appreciate input from specialists both inside the city and outside the city. And the goal here is to deliver rock-solid heating and cooling costs and locking in prices for decades. So, the business model, and it is a business model, is to deliver a service, and then to lock in a price to deliver that thermal service for, a significant amount of time, and not worry about the fluctuation of gas and oil prices during the future. So I'm hoping that this works forward. I want to submit it to the Climate Resiliency Committee, and we'll cover it at that point, as well as sending it to the Planning Board and Site Plan Review.
Motion's made and seconded to refer this communication to Climate Resiliency Committee, Site Plan, and the Planning Board. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The communication is going to the Climate Resiliency Committee, Site Plan, and the Planning Board, and the vote is 9-0. Agenda item number 6.
Communication from the mayor regarding a reappointment of Dr. Joseph Tennyson to the Board of Health for a 3-year term to expire on February 5th, 2029.
Mr. President?
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Motion to approve, since this is a reappointment, to send him to the Board of Health. I appreciate the work that he's been doing, and hopefully he will continue to be an asset to our community.
Motion made and seconded to approve the reappointment of Dr. Tennyson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The reappointment is approved, and the vote is 9-0. Agenda item number 7.
Communication from the mayor regarding appointment of Dr. Sandeep Jabal to the Board of Health for a 3-year term to expire on February 5th, 2029, replacing retiring member James H. Griffin, who has served on the board since 2013.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Also like to put a gratitude to James Griffin, who served on the board with his retirement, and I'd like to send the appointment of Dr. Jubal to the Personnel Committee.
Motion's made and seconded to send the appointment of Dr. Jubal to the Personnel Committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The appointment of Dr. Jubal will go to Personnel, and the vote is 9-0. Agenda item number 8.
Communication from Assistant City Solicitor Jeremy McManus regarding an application for special permit from Attorney Brian Falk on behalf of Marlborough Northborough Land Trust to build and operate 2 multifamily dwellings with a total of 90 residential units, accessory parking, resident amenities, landscape areas, and open space areas to be located at the corner of Ames and Forest Streets in proper legal form, order number 26-100-9664C.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to accept and place on file the communication from the Assistant City Solicitor and to refer the application for the special permit down to number 19 on the agenda.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file the communication and refer this down to agenda item 19 on our agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The communication is being filed. We'll move this down to agenda item number 19, and the vote is 9-0. Agenda item number 9.
Application for renewal of junk dealer, secondhand dealer license, Gerald Dumas, DBA Dumas and Sons, secondhand store, 65 Mechanic Street.
Council Pacillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know we had Mr. Dumas in here last year, took him to the Public Services Committee where we had a good conversation. Did check in with code enforcement. They've had no complaints about the property in the last year. And with that, move to approve the renewal.
Motion made and seconded to approve the junk dealer's license. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I went through this last year. I still believe, I'm a believer that with this particular applicant, he could do a lot more to improve that part of Lincoln and Mechanic Street. As a prime example, we have the French Hill Alta project. Now we have the Armory project going online. I still believe that there's other things he could do to help to revitalize.
Same line of thought. I'm familiar with some of the other properties owned by the same applicant. And I've seen the, I drive by the establishment every time, and it is a stark difference in between maintenance between the Alta, the business that's right on the corner of Lincoln Mechanic, and the other surrounding businesses. So it would be nice to have some kind of updated presentation on that building as well.
Thank you, Councilor Preciado. Anyone else? On the motion to approve the junk dealer license, all those in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those opposed? Abstaining? Opposed is 1 with 1 abstention, so the junk dealer license is approved. 7 in favor, 1 opposed, with 1 abstention. Agenda item number 10.
Application for renewal of junk dealer, secondhand dealer license, TVI Inc., DBA Savers, 222A East Main Street.
Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also had an opportunity to talk to the code enforcement officer. No complaints have been received in the last year. It is another renewal, and with that, move to approve the renewal of the junk dealer, secondhand dealer license.
With the conditions from last year, right?
With the same conditions as last year, yes.
Motion
yes.
made and seconded to approve the Savers junk dealer license with the conditions from last year. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The junk dealer license is approved with the conditions, and the vote is 9-0. Agenda item number 11.
Petition of Mass Electric and Verizon to install one joint-owned pole on Farm Road beginning at a point approximately 540 feet southwest of the center line of the intersection of Cook Lane National Grid to install a 50-foot Class H1 midspan pole between P28 and P29 on Farm Road. Pole will be located on city property intersected by Cook Lane and Bovin Drive. The new pole will be labeled P28-50.
Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to set a date for a public hearing on May 4th and to send to the city engineer for review and comment.
Motion's made and seconded. We will set the public hearing for May 4th and send to the city engineer for review. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The item is going to have a public hearing on May 4th and have the city engineer provide his comments, and the vote is 9-0. Agenda item number 12.
Petition of Mass Electric and Verizon to install one joint-owned pole on Hudson Street beginning at a point approximately 95 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Kenny Lane National Grid to install a 45-foot Class H1 midspan pole between P15 and P16 on Hudson Street. Pole will be located on city property intersected by Kenny Lane and Union Street. The pole will be labeled P15-50.
Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to set a date for a public hearing on May 4th and to send to the city engineer.
We will set a public hearing for May 4th, so motion will have a public hearing on May 4th and send to the city engineer for comments. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you much, Mr. President. Sorry, this is the second one for May 4th, but that is 1 week from today.
So we checked last week with the city engineer and Mass Electric. They're all good. Tom said he would get us
Okay,
his
do we have
comments.
to do a longer hearing, longer notification for a hearing? Is 7 days okay?
For petitions, it's fine.
Okay.
It's not going to all the butters and stuff. So
Thank you for the clarification, sir.
you are welcome. On the motion for the public hearing, Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I could be wrong, but I believe there's an error in this. I don't think it's intersected by Kenny Lane and Union Street. I believe it's Kenny and Hudson Street.
So we had that discussion with Mass Electric, and it's how they write their petitions to the nearest big street. So it's, and you'll see it for the one above it and below it. They just, I can't do their work, but the drawings depict where it's going to be, and it's on Kenny and Hudson Street.
Yes, thank you.
All right, for the public hearing on May 4th, and go to the city engineer for comments. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It's going to have a public hearing on May 4th, and go to the city engineer for comments, and the vote is 9-0. Agenda item 13.
Petition of Mass Electric and Verizon and continuing approximately 22 feet in a northwest direction National Grid to install a 45-foot Class H1 midspan pole on Hudson Street. The new pole will be labeled P42-50.
Councilor Pacillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. The city clerk will be very proud, Wilson. Thank you for sticking with us on those three. Thank you to my colleagues for pointing out these minor errors. But with that, move to set a date for public hearing on May 4th and to send to the city engineer.
Motion made and seconded to set the public hearing date for May 4th and send to the engineer for any conditions. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? This is going to have a public hearing on May 4th and ask the city engineer to provide comments, and the vote is 9-0. Agenda item 14.
Communication from James Hall on behalf of Cobia Enterprises LLC regarding requests pursuant to Chapter 342 gasoline stations and car washes for permission to continue operation at the hours granted at 342 Boston Post Road East for 5 years.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we have a similar gasoline station on Lincoln Street that was approved in 2022 that has come to us annually for a request to approve up to 5 years. We choose for me personally. So I am very comfortable with keeping both of these similar, with having them come to us. We've never not approved them, but at least it does give us an opportunity to check in with the police department, to have residents who may have issues. So I would move to approve the extension, but for 1 year.
Motion made and seconded to approve their hour extension, which is 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. for an additional year. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The hours extension is granted for an additional 1 year period, and the vote is 9-0. Agenda item number 15.
Communication from Department of Public Utilities regarding investigation of DPU on its own motion into gas and electric delivery charges and bill redesign.
Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just for those watching at home and for those in the audience, the Department of Public Utilities is inviting folks to submit written comments and questions to their order, as well as their own experience with gas and electric delivery rates by 5 p.m. on April 30th. So time is ticking. You can send those over. There are 2 emails listed in tonight's agendas for DPU, and there are a couple of instructions that they request along with the emails that you do send over. Please have them in PDF form. With that, move to accept and file the communication.
Motion's made and seconded to accept and place on file the communication. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Communication is filed and the vote is 9-0. Agenda item 16.
Communication from Mass Lottery Commission regarding Keno monitor being offered to the following existing Keno to go agent, Marlboro Country Convenience, 286 West Main Street.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think in the past we have dealt with these as saying what
Katie, microphone.
Sorry. In the past, we have dealt with the Keno request by sending a letter stating that we don't object to the Keno. We do object to, now I'm going to blank on,
Monitor.
Keno monitor. So I would suggest that we authorize the City Council President to write that same letter that's been written in the past. I believe a copy is in our packet for this particular site, so that they have us on record as our position. Do I need to
Can you
move to approve, move to have the President write the letter for the keynote to go.
I would ask if Councilor Navin would come up and take the chair, please.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Mr. President.
Councilor Rossing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Why this is different, all right? So I contacted the Lottery Commission last week, asked them how many monitors do we have in the city. We have 15 monitors in the city. 5 are in restaurants, and they're on my computer, but if you need to know the names, I can give them to you. 8 of them are convenience stores. 2 of them are what's considered other, and the other is ITAM and the fishing game. All right, so I went and spoke to the owner of 286 West Main Street. He's owned it for a little over a year. He also owns one of the convenience stores that has a Keno monitor at 505 Boston Post Road West. Asked him, you have any issues? How many people? He says, no issues, and people don't stay very long. For those of you that are Keno fanatics, it's 3 minutes a shot. So if you're gonna sit and hang out in a place and play a whole bunch of them, you're looking for a seat. There are no seats. He says a typical person playing Keno at his facility stays there for 2 or 3 games and hits the road. Right? We have denied items in the past, specifically for gas stations, both the one that we just approved the extended hours for and the one at 431 Lincoln Street, the vape shop on Pleasant Street, because they wanted to set up tables, and we said, we're not doing that, and Monty's Mini Market. This particular one, based on what I saw, I would recommend we just accept place on file and let them install the Keno monitor. I went in and I saw the place. There's not a whole lot of room to hang out. The space is pretty tight. So there's not going to be crowds of people playing Keno at this facility, just like there aren't at, I'm going to go from memory, Pete's on Main, the Capital one at Wilson and Farm, General Store, the one on Chestnut Street, and I can go read the other 4 or 5 that I'm missing. Point is, this guy has one, he's done a good job, seemed very committed to it. He told me he doesn't tolerate any, foolishness at his places, and he seemed reasonable enough to me. So I would say, don't make me write a letter for something that I don't believe in, but I will if that's the will of the council. I would recommend this gets approved or just accept and place on file and let it go. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rossing.
All right, I guess I can take that.
Your call. Yeah, well.
Okay, so there's been a motion to have the president write a letter objecting to the having a monitor installed at 286 West Main. Motion made and second to accept and place on file. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Vital.
Thank you, Mr. President. In my new position at the Addiction Referral Center, I've been in contact with about 3 or 4 young men who are very much addicted to gambling. And I would ask that the city look at opportunities for state funding to have prevention to our young adults that are getting way too involved in gambling these days. I don't think we should be offering more opportunities to gamble. We should be offering less. But because this has been this way forever and a day, I will support it. But I do ask that we, as a city, we try to address it from a prevention side of things. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, Councilor Vital. Any other discussion on the motion to accept and place on file? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion to allow the Mass Lottery to install a Keno monitor at 286 West Main Street is basically filed with no objection. Vote was 9-0. Agenda item 17.
Minutes of boards, commissions, and committees.
President?
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file the minutes.
Motion's made and second to accept and place on file the minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Minutes are filed. Votes 9-0. Agenda item 18.
Claims.
Mr. President?
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It looks like there was quite a bit of claims from the snowstorm. But in any case, motion to accept and send them to legal department.
A motion made and seconded to send all the claims to the legal department. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Claims are going to legal, and the vote is 9-0. Reports of committees. And just for public service announcement, you'll notice on the agenda, councilors, the reports are now listed on the agenda. The reason being, the solicitor asked that from a public awareness item and a no open meeting law violation, if we're going to be suspending rules to report stuff out, it is good to have those on the agenda within the 48-hour recommended time frame. So with that, Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance Committee met on April 13th, 2026. Meeting convened at 6:30 p.m. We had two items on the agenda that evening. First order was number 26-100-9716. The transfer request in the amount of $807,524 from Economic Development to MEDC, funding for the FY 2027 operating budget of MEDC. On a motion by Council Ficillo, seconded by the chair, the committee recommends approval of the transfer request in the amount of $807,524 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for the FY 2027 operating budget of MEDC. The vote carried 4-1. Council Oram was opposed. Next item was also order number 26-100-9716, the transfer request in the amount of $150,000 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for the Economic Development Toolbox. On a motion by Councilor Oram, seconded by the chair, the committee recommends approval of the transfer request in the amount of $150,000 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for the Economic Development Toolbox. That vote did carry 5-0. The meeting adjourned at 7:11 p.m. Mr. President, that's the end of my report, and I will be asking for 2 suspensions this evening. Do I ask for...
You can ask for them right now.
Okay, I will ask for, first one I will ask for, it will be on order number 26-100-9716, the transfer request in the amount of $807,524.
There's a request for suspension that's been made and seconded for order number 9716. All those in favor of suspension? Opposed? Suspension carries. The vote is 9-0. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve the transfer request in the amount of $807,524 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for the FY 2027 operating budget of MEDC.
Motion made and seconded to approve the transfer. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Transfer is approved, and the vote is 9-0. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next suspension I will be asking for is for the transfer request in the amount of $150,000, please.
Been a motion made and seconded for suspending the rules. All those in favor? Opposed? Suspension carries. The vote is 9-0. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve the transfer request in the amount of $150,000 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for the Economic Development Toolbox, please.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the transfer. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Transfer is approved, and the vote is 9-0. Any other reports of committees? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The Personnel Committee met on April 13th, 2026 at 7:15 p.m. in the City Council chamber and was open to the public. Meeting was televised on WMCT-TV and available viewing on the link. The voting members present was Chair Oram, Councilors Navin and Doucette, other councilors present, Councilors Vital, Irish, Fusallo, Ossing, and also Mayor Dumas. One item was covered, order number 26-100-9717, the proposed job description pursuant to Chapter 125 Personnel, preparation of classification descriptions relative to the position of Assistant Fire Chief. Councilor position is responsible for and in reporting to the fire chief. Mayor would then check with HR and legal for approval of the changes. On a motion by Councilor Doucette, second by Chair Oram, the committee recommends the approval of the proposed job description pursuant to Chapter 125 Personnel, Section 5 Preparation of Classification Descriptions relative to the position of Assistant Fire Chief. The vote with noted changes. The vote approved with 3-0. On a motion by Doucette, second by Oram, meeting was adjourned at 7:21 p.m. I'm looking for one exception to approve the job description.
One suspension?
One suspension.
Okay. Motion's made and seconded to suspend the rules. Any discussion? No. All those in favor of the suspension? Opposed? Suspension carries. The vote is 9-0. Councilor Doucette.
Yes, motion to approve the job description for Assistant Fire Chief.
Motion made and seconded to approve the job description of the Assistant Fire Chief as noted in the personnel report. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The Assistant Fire Chief job description is approved, and the vote is 9-0. Any other reports of committees? Councilor Roby?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to let the public know that we are having an Urban Affairs Committee meeting on Wednesday, April 29th, to take up the MEDC draft forward plan. I want to make sure that the public is aware that this will be done a little bit differently than a typical committee meeting, where I will allow the public to speak on the forward plan to give the council some insight into what the public thinks of it. It's not an opportunity to talk about things we've done in the past. It's not an opportunity to say what you don't like about what we've done. It's talking about the future and the forward plan. So once there will be a presentation first with some PowerPoints to go over the plan briefly, then there'll be the opportunity for the public to speak, and the City Council will then have the opportunity to comment, and we'll see where we get. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. Any other reports of committees? Seeing none. Agenda item 19.
Order number 26-1009664C, application for special permit from Attorney Brian Falk on behalf of Marlborough Northborough Land Trust to build and operate 2 multifamily dwellings with a total of 90 residential units, accessory parking, resident amenities, landscape areas, and open space areas to be located at the corner of Ames and Forest Street. Recommendation of the Urban Affairs Committee is to approve.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve.
Motion's made and seconded to move the recommendation of the committee, which is to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Navin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As one of the 2 councilors who voted in opposition to this in committee, I don't think it'll be a surprise to anyone. I've been against the development from the beginning. When we were discussing the zoning change last year, I found some concerns in making the zoning change. Mass law being what it is, you only need 6 votes for a zoning change, you need 8 votes for a special permit. So some people may sit here and say, what the heck is that council doing? Sometimes they're for something and then they're against it. It's an odd hurdle that it's a lower bar for the zoning change and a higher bar for the special permit. But yet here we are. I want to start by saying a couple of good things. I'm heartened by the fact that this project will consist of condominiums. It's something that we've heard tonight and we hear a lot. I think that is a benefit. I'm also heartened by the fact that developers stepped forward with some mitigation that would help the city address some of these concerns. That said, I believe today, as I did when we discussed the zoning change and during the public hearing, that this is, on balance, this is not the right project and this project should not continue. On balance, I believe that we will be disproportionately impacted as a community. I believe that the traffic impacts, the impacts to services, being an age-targeted community, while we still don't have a fire station on this side of the city, and that a disproportionate number of calls will be headed towards a development like this. And despite the fact that, again, it is an age-targeted community, there is still the potential for additional school children in this development. Those are the reasons I cannot support it at this time, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Councilor Navin. Any other comments from the councilors? Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've counted the votes, so I do think I won't be up here too long. I think I have a feeling where we're at tonight as a council. I appreciate the conversation, both in urban affairs and as we went through the zoning process, right? I think we've had a really robust conversation. But there are some things I want to highlight that I think are unique to this project, but also not so unique, that we saw pretty recently with Lazat Drive, which is a project very close to this neighborhood, right? So when we're talking about balance and balance to our city services, I'm having a hard time understanding why some folks are against this project when they were just for the Lazat Drive project, which brought 187 condominium units online to the city, or will, I should say. Not only that, but the mitigation per unit there was $1,802. This, we're getting $2,555 worth of mitigation per unit. Mind you, it's only 90 units with 12% affordable. So I really do believe that this is an incredibly strong project, one that adds to the tax, the tax base in our city, adds revenue to our city, which is so critical right now. We've had this conversation, we've hashed it out, and folks know how I'm very strongly in support of this development. I think it does bring balance to that side of town. I think it gives some of our older residents an opportunity to downsize and to open up some of the other units in our city, whether it be other condominiums, whether it be single-family homes, right? It's going to really give us an opportunity, and I think it adds some incredible value when it comes to that, right? Having folks who are looking to downsize, giving them space. I don't think we've been creating product in the city, at least in developments that I've seen, that do that. So that's what makes this project so unique. The idea that it'll create traffic or it'll be imbalanced on our city services, I really do think there is balance. We've had the conversation that it's not going to be bringing, an exuberant amount of students to our district because it's age targeted. At the same time, could it require more emergency services? It may, I'm not sure. But again, we're working to build that West Side Fire Station. We're working as a group, and the city is taking that issue seriously. So I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. I think they can happen at the same time, and that's why I'm very much in support of this project. I think it adds some incredible value. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Ficillo. Any other councilors? Councilor Vital.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with Councilor Ficillo, but one thing he did miss in his excellent summary, and that is that almost 100% of the abutters support this project. It's very rarely that we have all the abutters saying, yeah, this is the type of project we want in our backyard. And in this case, it was true. So that's all I have to say on that. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Councilor Vital. Any other questions from the councilors? On the motion to approve, I will have the clerk happily read the conditions first. Take it nice and slow.
The City Council, pursuant to its authority under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, and the zoning ordinance of the City of Marlborough, hereby grants the applicant a special permit to build and operate a two-building multifamily dwelling project with a total of up to 90 residential units as shown on the plan, subject to the following conditions, which conditions shall be binding on the applicant and its successors and assigns. 1, construction in accordance to the applicable laws. Construction of all the structures on the site is to be in accordance with all applicable building codes and zoning regulations in effect in the City of Marlborough and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and shall be built according to the plans as may be amended during site plan review. 2, site plan review. The issuance of the special permit is further subject to detailed site plan review by the Site Plan Review Committee in accordance with the AVOD ordinance prior to the issuance of a building permit. Subsequent site plan review shall be consistent with the conditions of this special permit and the plans submitted, reviewed, and approved by the City Council as the special permit granting authority. Any additional changes, alterations, modifications, or amendments as required during the process of site plan review shall further be conditions of this special permit and during conditions subsequent to the issuance of the special permit and site plan approval. The Site Plan Review Committee may authorize the phasing of site and building work to be issued for the first building completed at the site in earlier phases if site work related to the building has been completed and the applicant has complied with all conditions applicable to the phase in the first building in accordance with the Section 2J of the AVOD ordinance. The building commissioner may approve minor modifications to the special permit and the plans. 3, incorporation of submissions, all plans, photo renderings, site evaluations, briefs, and other documentation provided by the applicant as part of the application and as amended or revised during the application hearing process before the City Council and/or the City Council Urban Affairs Committee are here and incorporated into and become part of the special permit and become conditions and requirements of all same unless otherwise altered by the City Council. The final architectural design of the site shall be reasonable, consist with the plans submitted by the applicant. The final exterior features of the site, including landscaping, shall be maintained in good condition and shall be reasonable, consistent with the plans submitted and representations made to the City Council. 4, storm water and erosion control management. The applicant shall ensure that its site superintendent during construction of the project and competent in stormwater and erosion control management. The individual's credentials shall be acceptable to the engineer division of the city departments of Public Works and City Conservation Commission. This individuals shall be responsible for checking the site before, during, and after storm events, including weekends and evenings when storms are predicted. This individual shall ensure that no untreated stormwater leaves the site, consistent with the state and city storms water regulations. This individual shall ensure compliance with the approved sequence of construction plan and approved erosion control plan. The applicant shall grant this individual's complete authority of the site as it relates to stormwater and erosion controls. 5, phasing of construction. Each of the 2 proposed condominium building may be organized as its own condominium, and the building may construct in phases at different times. Site plan review in accordance to the condition number 2 may be addressed in phases with separate reviews from different buildings. 6, affordable units. 12% of the dwelling units at the site shall be made available as units for sale at affordable prices to home buyers whose annual income does not exceed 80% of the area median income as defined in section 650-5 of the zoning ordinance in perpetuity or the longest period allowed by law the affordable housing units in accordance with the provision of section 650-26 of the zoning ordinance and its condition. The affordable housing units shall be distributed even among the 2 buildings. If 2 buildings are constructed in separate phases, no less than 12% of the dwelling units in each building shall constitute consistent affordable housing units. The affordable housing units shall comply with all requirements for exclusion in the subsidized housing inventory of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of the Housing and Livable Communities. Prior to obtaining the occupancy permit for any unit within given building, the applicant, in coordination with the city and its Community Development Authority, shall file all required submissions to EOHLC for an exclusion of affordable housing units within the specific building on the SHI and shall diligently take all actions necessary to include affordable housing units on the SHI, including without limitation, preparing and executing a regulatory agreement and declaration of restrictive covenants and or other restrictive instrument necessary to ensure compliance with the said zoning ordinance and this condition. Market planning and all other required documentation, all costs associated with complying with this condition, including but not limited to the EOHLC process, recording of all documents with the Registry of Deeds, and the market planning for the affordable units shall be borne by the applicant. 7, transportation alternatives. A, information regarding public transportation maps, schedules, and fare information shall be posted in a central location and or otherwise made available to residents within each building at the site. B, A welcome packet shall be provided to residents detailing available public transportations, bicycles, walking. Secure bicycle parking shall be provided for residents and visitors, including weather-protected bicycle parking within 2 parking garages on site. 8, green design. The applicant shall utilize best practices to design energy-efficient buildings and encouraged by design building and accessory structures to accommodate accessory solar energy facilities and/or technologies as feasible. The applicant shall use best efforts to provide all electric utilities contingent upon the utility company being able to commit such service during the project's ordinary construction timeline. Accommodations for future electric vehicle charging stations or EV dedicated outlets shall be installed in at least 10% of the parking for each building, provided that each building shall have at least 6 parking spaces with EV charging stations or EV dedicated outlets installed prior to the issuance of the first occupancy permit for any unit within the building. 9, school construction funding. The applicant shall provide payment to the city in the total amount of $90,000 to be used by the city for the construction of a new Richer School elementary school. Said payment to be deposited into City Richer Schools Mitigation Stabilization Fund, account number 83600-32730. The applicant shall make such payment to the city in 2 installments with $45,000 paid prior to issuance of the building permit for each of the 2 buildings. 10, sidewalk funding. The applicant shall provide payment to the city in the amount of $50,000 to be used by the city for sidewalk improvements along Ames Street. Said payment to be deposited into the city's Ames Village Mitigation Stabilization Fund, account number to be established. The applicant shall make sure payment to the city in 2 installments, with $25,000 paid prior to the issuance of each building permit for each of the 2 buildings. 11, West Side Fire Station funding. Prior to issuance of the first building permit for each of the 2 residential buildings at the site, the applicant shall make a payment to the city in the amount of $1,000 for each multifamily dwelling to be developed in the respective building for a maximum total of $90,000 for the use to be used for city for a proposed West Side Fire Station. Said payments to be deposited into city's West Side Fire Station Mitigation Stabilization Fund, account number 83600-32701. 12, land shall be more robust than required by the zoning ordinance and shall provide shade canopy and native plants to improve habitat. The applicant and subsequent owners shall maintain the landscaping at the site for duration of the use. 13, lighting. Exterior lighting at the site shall be downward facing and shielded to minimize impact of neighboring properties within the lighting plan for the site to be reviewed, further conditioned during the site plan review process. 14, open space as required by section F2 of the AVOD ordinance and the shown on the plans. The use will preserve approximately 5.87 acres of the site as a natural vegetated buffer. This open space shall be kept in its natural condition to create a buffer for a single-family neighborhood to the north and east of the site, support wildlife habitat, provide environmental benefits, and improve livable aesthetics. As part of formal site plan review, the site plan review committee shall work with the applicant to develop a long-term management plan for this open space area. This plan outline tree and plant management practices and responsibilities, include invasive plant management, and have other land management considerations deemed necessary by the site plan committee. No additional buildings or structures on this open area shall be permitted. The management shall also outline the maintenance needed, if any, to the existing abandoned detention basin near the border of Teller Street. 15, compliance with applicable laws. The applicant agrees to comply with all municipal, state, and federal rules, regulations, and ordinance as they may apply to the construction, maintenance, and operation of use. 16, recording of the decision. In accordance with the provision of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 11, the applicant at its expense shall record the special permit in the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds after the city clerk has certified the 20-day period for appealing this special permit has elapsed, with no appealing have been filed and before the applicant has applied to the building commissioner for a permit. Upon recording, the applicant shall forthwith provide a copy of the recorded special permit to the city council's office, building department, and the city solicitor's office.
Okay, councilors, you heard the 16 conditions.
A quick question. How many votes to approve, considering there's 9 here?
8. It's always 8.
Make a clarification, that's all. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Council Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will keep it very brief, I promise. Just a couple of things that I'm going back to, especially in hearing the conditions, which thank you to the assistant clerk for going through that with us. Right, $230,000 in mitigation funding, and I've heard this, and I want to clarify, I've not heard from the residents about this project at all, about, other strains on services, schools, right, overarching planning. That's not come up in this conversation that we've had about this specific project, right? If we're looking at this special permit, right, let's take it as it is, what's in front of us. We are not hearing that. But to address some of those concerns, right, everything that was just read to us, we received comments from all of our city department heads, right, including public safety. Right, of this money, there's money going to school construction funding for the new Richer School, sidewalk funding to address infrastructure concerns, West Side Fire Station funding, right, to address the public safety concerns on this side of town. We worked very hard in committee. I know that there were many of us working together to try to figure out how do we create a mitigation package that helps, because we're hearing these concerns from the city of Marlborough. And, time and time again, I find myself working through these sort of special permits, alongside fellow councilors, but then when it comes time to look at the whole project, these efforts are for naught. And I'm a little frustrated when it comes to that. So again, I just want to hammer home this point that we did our due diligence. This is a good project, and we should approve it tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Ficillo. Any other Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am completely in support of this. There's been numerous projects proposed for this property area in the times that I've been on the council. And as was referred to by Councilor Vitale, the neighborhood likes it. So I think that's the big win to this. We're trying to do the best for what the citizens say. And here we have the neighborhood saying, hey, this is good. They got a buffer here, so we don't see the buildings here compared to the residential that's nearby. If you're going to put in, normal housing, small lot, whatever, those are going to be $1 million homes that no one's going to afford anyway. So there's real big benefits for this. And I do think that it really does fit well within the community, and that the local neighborhood wants it. So I hope anyone here reconsiders the vote against, because it's going to be a hair. But thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any other comments? Councilor Nabin.
Phone calls around here. And I do want to recognize the fact of the neighbors that directly abut and the cul-de-sac right behind this property are, I believe, almost unanimously in support of this. I did personally hear from residents in the Glen Street area, and we did hear from a couple of people during the public hearing that did question, not specifically about the project, but this project in the way that it's going to fit in with some of the other projects that we have before us or we have coming down the pike. So I can only speak for me. When my phone rings, it was not unanimous, but I do certainly acknowledge that we did hear from the people who are directly behind this property. And I can certainly appreciate that they would want this development. That is a direct benefit to them. There are I would say, a couple of hundred homes behind that street. And I did hear from more than a handful of them. So I want to leave it there. I appreciate everybody's comments. I'm certainly not going to get into an argument. I appreciate your request for me to change my vote. I will not be doing so. So I think I'm ready for the roll call, Mr. President. Thank you.
Councilor Preciado.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to mention that, you know, the way this was presented to the neighborhood was almost a disservice to them. You know, they essentially were given two options from the developer. This project or multifamily housing, which would clear the land, which I think is not true. They always had the third option of not building anything. So that was not presented to the community. Of course, the community is going to say, please don't tear down this open space, because they were presented with only two options. So I would say that the neighborhood was in support of the one option that would not eliminate the open space without the third option of not building anything at all. And I would also like to add that that mitigation money that is coming from the developer is only to offset the building of this project. The sidewalks are going to be improved because this building is coming in. That mitigation for the school money is going to come in because this project may potentially bring in children. The fire station money is coming in because this will be serviced by the fire station as well. So to say that that money is going to all these great things is a little untrue, because that money is only going to go to improve this site and the services that this site will need. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Preciado. Any other councilors? Hearing none, on the motion to approve the special permit, a yes vote is to approve, a no vote is to deny. I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilor Navin.
No.
Councilor Orm, absent. Councilor Alsing.
Yes.
Councilor Roby.
Yes.
Councilor Gould.
Yes.
Councilor Vital.
Yes.
Councilor Preciado.
No.
Councilor Fucillo.
Yes.
Councilor Irish.
The motion to approve the special permit does not carry, with 7 votes in favor and 2 opposed. Agenda item 20.
Order number 26-100-9639B, proposed salary ordinance amendment pursuant to Chapter 125 Personnel, Section 6, salary schedule relative to position of city solicitor.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the recommendation of committee. This is a ordinance change, so we have to go through the 4 stages of the ordinance. All those in favor of suspending the first reading and approving the second? All those in favor? Opposed? That part carries. The vote is 9-0. All those in favor of the passage to be enrolled? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries 9-0. All those in favor of the passage to be ordained? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries 9-0. Is there any objection to passage in one evening? Seeing none, the ordinance change is approved, and that is a 9-0 vote. Agenda item number 21.
Order number 26-100-9640B, proposed salary ordinance amendment pursuant to Chapter 125 Personnel, Section 6, salary schedule relative to the position of Assistant Fire Chief.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve, please.
Motion is made and seconded. Move the recommendation of the committee, which is to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, this is another ordinance change that requires to go through the 4 stages. All those in favor of suspending the first reading and approving the second? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries 9-0. All those in favor of the passage to be enrolled? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries 9-0. All those in favor of the passage to be ordained? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries 9-0. Any objection in one evening? Seeing none, the ordinance change is approved and the vote is 9-0. Councilor Fucillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:27. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.